So our system it's huge. And I think you need to understand that to understand our challenges. And you could say that we have 4 major challenges. And the first one is that much of this infrastructure is built during the 50s and 60s. So it's getting old. And also during the same period of time since it was built, if we look at 2 of our cities, Malmö and Lund, during the same period of time, the population in those cities has doubled. So yeah, now it's time for us to upgrade our system, and we need to do it at the same time as it functions as it's supposed to. We need to keep on delivering drinking water and take care of wastewater, even if we renew our system.
Welcome to the Urbanista, where we discuss the water management challenges of Nordic cities. From safe drinking water distribution and stormwater collection to building sustainable urban living environments. Here is your host, Delphine Vesalo.
Well, welcome. You are in the right place. Because here at the Urbanista, we discuss all these topics with the people who are actually out there doing the job. Like our guest today, who comes all the way from the city of Malmö in Sweden. So who are you and what do you do?
Hello, my name is Ebba Waernbaum. I work at the VA SYD, which is the utility for 5 municipalities in south of Sweden. So except for Malmö, we also have Lund, Eslöv, Lomma, and Burlöv. And I work with strategic question concerning stormwater, with most focus on stormwater treatment.
Thank you so much, Eva, for being with us today. And I had in mind specifically the city of Malmö, but now you expanded a bit more. How can you explain a bit more the area that you are looking for? It's not just one city. How big it is? Can you say how extensive it is? Is it several cities or several the municipalities?
Yeah, so it's 5 municipalities, and in each municipality we also have cities. So Malmö is the largest one, and right now I think it's 350,000 people living in Malmö, but we also have cities in our other municipalities. So yeah, and in all of these municipalities we deliver drinking water, we take care of and manage wastewater and stormwater, and we have a big system with wastewater plants, waterworks, a great pipe system.
So a very broad scope of what you are looking after, which I guess each one of those areas that you just mentioned has, very specific challenges or problems to solve. So, but could you please just give us a sense of which are overall the main challenges, the main things that you are facing when addressing all the water management topics in general?
Yeah, if we look at it in general, and first I think it would be good to just paint a picture of how large our system is. And as I said, we have wastewater plants, waterworks, and then we have this pipe system. And this pipe system is hidden underground. And since you can't see it, it can be hard to grasp how big it actually is. But we have 5,600 kilometers of pipes in our system. And do you know how far you can go in that distance if you travel from Malmö?
5,000, should be all the way down to southern Europe, or that's quite a lot. I mean, you get out of the Nordics
even
for
further.
sure.
You can, you can travel to India.
You can go all the way to Africa.
So it's quite a distance. Well, I'm sure somewhere in Africa you will also manage to go. But yeah, from Malmö to India, you can travel that distance with 5,600 kilometers. So our system it's huge. And I think you need to understand that to understand our challenges. And you could say that we have 4 major challenges. And the first one is that much of this infrastructure is built during the 50s and 60s. So it's getting old. And also during the same period of time since it was built, if we look at 2 of our cities, Malmö and Lund, during the same period of time, the population in those cities has doubled. So yeah, now it's time for us to upgrade our system, and we need to do it at the same time as it functions as it's supposed to. We need to keep on delivering drinking water and take care of wastewater, even if we renew our system. Yeah.
So you are very involved in planning, in the planning phase of all these water management systems. Actually, you just mentioned the age, roughly the age of the installed infrastructure. Now, I guess now we got there. But first, what is your approach? Take us through your thinking process behind when you are facing the planning of a new solution or a new area for stormwater, for wastewater. I don't know. What is your process, your thinking process behind every project?
Yeah, so I guess first and foremost, we need to get involved early in the process, and we need to think. We need to think and plan smart and think strategically about these questions. And I work with the strategic questions. And there I can just give you. When I started working at VA SYD, we didn't talk so much about stormwater treatment because we mostly talked about stormwater, detaining stormwater. But when we talked about stormwater treatment, it was when we were building new areas. But since then, we've been on this journey for a couple of years where we learned a lot. And I would say that we had, and this journey has changed the way we think about this question. And I would say that we learned 3 lessons. And number 1 is that we need to think about which problem do we want to solve, and we need to think. So that's the first thing we need to think about. And then when it comes to existing areas and pollution loads from existing areas, we've seen that in the future, most part of the pollutions will come from existing areas and not the new areas that's going to be built. And the third lesson is that the third lesson is that in VA SYD's part of the system, larger solutions are more cost effective for us.
What you just now depicted a couple of scenarios. The existing areas, the ones that are already urbanized, that as you mentioned, some of them may be as old, including the pipes, including the infrastructure, as old as 50 years, or actually by now it's in the 50s, 60s. Well, then it's like almost 70, 80 years. So that is one aspect which, well, of course, 70 years ago, there were not the same standards or the same way of thinking that we have today. In those, you mentioned that initially the thinking was more like containing, was prevention, flooding. I can understand, but not so much the tackling the issue of the pollution or filtering or cleaning the stormwater. So is that really that severe, or how big is the problem for those existing areas, old areas?
Yeah, so when we're looking at existing areas, if we look at it like this, in the city we have existing areas, and then we have the new areas that's going to be built according to the municipality's development plan. And we've done this study where we compare the pollution loads from existing areas with like these new future areas, and it showed that in the future 90% of the pollution load in the future will come from existing areas. And this was it was an eye-opener for us, because before, as I said, we mostly talked about stormwater pollution and stormwater treatment when it came to new areas, and we realized, okay, we need to also take care of this pollution load from existing areas. So then we figured we need to make an action plan over existing areas, and the part of the system that's VA SYD's part of the system.
90% is from existing areas compared to 10, I assume 10% of newly or future areas. That's a huge difference. What can you elaborate more? What was in this research that you did? How come such amount of pollution can come from an existing area? Is it the condition of the existing pipelines? Is it the way the cities, the streets were designed before? Which are the factors, do you think, that lead to that huge percentage pollution from existing areas?
I would say that the most part of our future city is already built. So when we look at the areas for like the new areas, they are much. When we compare new areas with existing areas, the areas for new urban areas are smaller than the existing area. So yeah, I think that's why. And I mean, even now we have this, when it comes to stormwater quality, we have this European Water Framework Directive that tells us that our water body must reach a good status until 2027. And I mean, that's like what we have today. That's from our existing areas. And then we're building new areas. And when I say new areas, I mean, we've done this study in two of our cities, both Lund and Eslöv. And with new areas, then we looked at the municipality's development plan and looked, okay, how much will the city expand? And looked at those new areas and compared with the existing areas. And the existing areas are much bigger than the new areas. So, yeah.
So this is pretty much how are we comparing these existing areas and versus the new. So is that part of the strategies that you are researching, you are planning? So which are the key issues or strategic view when you are planning for a new area?
Yeah. So first of all, you need to think about which problem do we want to solve. And as I said, I think I said a little bit about that. When we have stormwater, we have, you could say that we have two types of problem. One is the risk of flooding, and the other one is stormwater pollutions. And when it comes to the risk of flooding, to avoid flooding, we have this pipe system that stormwater runoff is drainage to. And when we're building new areas, we build new pipelines, but they goes to our existing pipe system. And our pipe system, it has a certain capacity. And as the city grows, the amount of water, we reach like the maximum amount of water that these existing pipes can have the capacity to handle. So therefore, we need to detain the water. So we need to detain it on certain places, and it's where we have a lack of capacity in our pipe system. That's where we need to detain it. But when it comes to, and that's most often further upstreams, but when it comes to stormwater treatment, the problem there is the pollutions in the stormwater and the effect it has on the recipient. So the treatment is intended to protect the recipient. And we can have that treatment in all levels in our system. It doesn't really matter if it's at the private property or if it's further downstreams, like in an end of pipe solution in the bottom of our system, as long as the treatment is before it reaches the recipient. So these two, they are two different problems, and it's two different solutions on different problems. And sometimes both issues are a problem on the same place, but not always. So we need to think about what kind of problem do we want to solve on this specific location.
Because as you are saying, I'm understanding that there are two very concrete scenarios. One scenario where you cannot just funnel all that water to the existing pipeline, because you will, of course, overload that. So then it's more of a retention solution that you need to put in place. That is one scenario, versus the other scenario where it may be that there may not be even the possibility to funnel that water into the existing network. Then what is on-site infiltration treatment, of course, and infiltration, or how you decide those between those two?
So first we need to consider, do we need to on this particular place, is it a risk of flooding, or do we need to treat stormwater on this place? And then we can build, if it's just for capacity, we can build a certain type of facility. And if we also need to treat the water on that specific place, then we can combine those two solutions. We can have it in the same facility, but we don't need to have it on all places.
Okay, so it's kind of a mixed approach. Of course, depending, as you mentioned, depending the location, depending the specific situation, you may have one or two or both. So that is quite a challenge. Please illustrate me, because I may not be too familiar with the geography or the area where you are. Is it rather flat? Is it there's more hills? How high or low you need to transport the water?
It differs so much between our different municipalities. But if you look at our system, you could say that our system looks like our pipe system. I'm talking about the pipe system now. You could say that it looks kind of like a tree. Where the leaves are symbolized, or the private property is symbolized by the leaves. And then we have our pipes, and that's like the branches, and smaller pipes leads to larger pipes, which eventually leads to the main pipelines, which you could say is the tree trunk, and this goes out to our recipient. And if you think about stormwater treatment, you can have it in all levels in the system. And how the system looks like in our different municipalities, it differs. But when it comes to stormwater treatment, we can choose if we want to have treatment close to the private property. The private property has its own local treatment, but we can choose to have a smaller solution for each branch, or we can have a larger solution for like larger branches or like the entire trunk. So when we done this action plan, when we realized, okay, we will have a lot of pollutions from our existing areas, then we realized, okay, we need to make this action plan. So we're doing this action plan for each municipalities, or like each cities. So far we've done it for Eslöv and we've done it for Lund, and we have to adjust those action plans to those cities because they don't look alike. They have different pipe system, and so we have to adjust. But like the lessons we learned from both of them is kind of the same, because for both of them we saw that like the larger solutions are more cost effective for us.
So the larger, the better, generally speaking. But also, as you depict or you illustrate this photo of the tree and the different branches, and depending where you are, you may need a different solution. In terms of the pollution treatment, which are the main factors or the main things that you consider when planning? Is it just mechanical? I mean, by precipitation, by filtering? Is it any other process, chemical or not? Which type of treatments you consider?
So, like I said, traditionally we've been working on just detaining stormwater. And now we just started working with also stormwater treatment. And now it's mostly ponds and wetlands. But we think that we need to develop a toolbox. As I said, treatment can take place in different parts of our system. It can be high up and it can be further down. And we saw in our action plan when it did that the larger solutions gives us is more cost effective for us. But we need to have like a toolbox of different types of solutions that we can use in different parts of our system. And in this toolbox, we have to have different measures that can be used on various different locations. And I think like in the dense city, like in the center of Malmö, we need solutions that are space effective. And also, like the facilities that we build, they must be easy to maintain, to be able to make them function as they're supposed to.
Well, exactly. Do you have any industrial activity? Because I am thinking, when thinking about treating the stormwater, it can be all the physical particles or debris, etc., that normally carry on the stormwater carry. But do you have any industrial activity somewhere that maybe will drop other type of pollutants, oils, something liquid, which is, how challenging is that?
You mean the pollutions from industries?
Yeah, the pollution from, exactly. That is not necessarily physical particles. I'm referring specifically, for example, oil. All type of any type of oils that goes mixed together with the water, but is that a bit more challenging to clean, to filter?
Well, I would say the most like when we build ponds and when we build wetlands, they can treat different kind of nutrients like phosphorus, which is one of the big problems in our recipient. But they can also take heavy metals and such. But then we have like this more, the pollutants are more solved. Is it called solved? Like when it's not like a particle. In the wetlands, we will treat some of those too. But of course, it's a challenge, like in the dense city of Malmö, where we don't have any, it's hard to find enough surface for our facilities. And it's hard to build a wetland in the middle of Malmö because, if you look in Malmö, there's no place and all the places are occupied by other stuff. So therefore, we need to develop a toolbox because right now, like in the dense of Malmö, it's hard to find solutions that we can have there. And actually, we're in this research project where we're looking at different types of techniques for treatment of stormwater. And it's both like close to the property, but also for like this larger flows that we have further down in our system. And that project is called I Swim, and it's financed by FOMAS, Blue Innovation in Sweden. And it's not just us as a utility, we also have the utility of Luleå, Lumir, and the utility of Östersund, MSV, and then we have 3 different universities of Malmö, Lund, Luleå Technical University, and it's managed by Sweden Water Research. So I hope in the future we will have this whole toolbox, so we doesn't just have just a few couple of techniques, but we can use different types of techniques on different types of places. Because I think in the future we will have to, we need that.
As you were describing in the first example, when you do have the space and the area for a pond, for a wetland, so that's typically the so-called blue-green solutions where you have the extended area, so you can leverage that. When you do not have the luxury of having that area is when, we need to go hidden under, we need to install the filters, whatever they are, mechanical, chemical, you need to install them somewhere. So, and then when you go and, trying to plan and open, and there's something else there that we didn't know it was there, an old infrastructure, an old pipeline. So what kind of challenges do you have with this hidden infrastructure, should we call it, when that anyway needs to be renewed? Because once you are there, boom, we need to do something about this.
First of all, the first challenge for us is that our infrastructure needs to be renewed. The other one is that the city keeps on growing. As I said before, in Malmö, we have 3,500 people living in Malmö, and the city aims to have 500,000 people living in Malmö by 2050. And as the city grows, our system needs to grow. And at the same time, it needs to function as it's supposed to do. Then we also have a consequence of infrastructure that needs to be renewed and growing cities. A consequence of that is that we have large investments ahead of us. And we have done this estimation where we estimated that we need to invest about 50 to 60 billions of Swedish kronor until 2050. And at the same time, there's a lack of there is a lack of resources. We have limited resources, and it's both when it comes to money, but it's also when it comes to people that has the right skill, and therefore we must prioritize. We can't do everything at once, but we need to prioritize and make sure that what we do give us the right value for the money, and that we do the right thing at the right place at the right time. So that's really important.
Those are a lot of ifs, a lot of moving parts. I mean, I'm just doing some quick math. 50 to 60 billion SEK, around 5-6 billion euros.
Billions.
So to put in the context, so one piece is it's a lot of money. It has to come from somewhere. Many times, is the taxpayer or somewhere else, the European Union funds. Okay, that's a different conversation. But hey, having the dimension in mind of how much monetary resources we need is like, whoa, that's the first thing. And the second thing that is, I don't know which one would be more difficult to solve or to tackle. The people you mentioned, the people with the knowledge, with the expertise to face this challenge that every time, every place, as you said, may be different, and solve. So is there more people really, or new, how to say it, new generations really interested, of engineers interested in this type of challenges and this type of problems? But we know, I mean, the Lulu University, we know they have a very comprehensive practice about the stormwater. Yes, we know. Do you know any other academy, or how do we get all these prepared people to come and work on this?
Well, I hope we will find enough people.
Should we promote more at universities? Because this is actually
I need more colleagues. I will not be able to do all of that by myself. So I need more colleagues.
Anyway, in the next coming, I mean, all this since this is as you depict is a significant problem that will take several years or decades, maybe, to be addressed. Well, maybe we are not going to be here by in 5 decades. So so we need to educate this.
Absolutely, and it's a really, really important question, and we need to address that question now. So we do it before it's too late. But it's important. We must educate people so that they want to work with this type of questions.
Well, we may start to do some promotion. I mean, if this conversation, we can make it arrive to any academic or research institution. Actually, those are the type of things that we are trying to raise awareness, first, of the problem that we need to face to solve. But hey, what about the future?
Yeah.
How ready we are, how prepared we are for the future, and at least from your perspective, from the job that you are doing, how prepared, how sure you are that what you are going to deliver in the next future, 5-10 years, I don't know. So in terms of how prepared you feel, or how prepared you think your team is to tackle and to solve all these problems. I mean, we talk about safety, how prepared we are also for the future.
So except like for this, we have an old infrastructure that needs to be renewed and upgraded, and the cities are growing. We also have like these newer types of questions with the climate change and safety and preparedness, and also stricter environmental requirements. So these are also questions that we need to address. I was just going to say that we haven't figured everything out, how we're going to tackle all of these questions yet, but we're working on it, and we're working on it.
What's your view on, because we are talking about requirements, what we need in terms of more legal requirements? Do we have a good background, good legal framework to follow? Is still some work to do in terms of that area, the legal area?
So So in Sweden, when it comes to stormwater quality, we have the European Water Framework Directive and the environmental standards. And one reason that we doesn't reach this goal is the stormwater, because it has pollutants. But stormwater isn't the only source of these pollutants. And even if we do what we can do as utility, it won't be sufficient to achieve this goal. So it can't be solved by one part alone. Of course, we at VA SYD are responsible for our parts, but we can't solve it by ourselves. And if we look at the Swedish legislation, the best would be if we didn't need it to treat the water at all from the beginning. If we could stop the pollutions at the source, so it never entered our stormwater system from the beginning. But that's not really the case today, so therefore we have to treat the water. And I would say that currently we as the utility doesn't have significant opportunities to impose such requirements to reduce stormwater pollutants into our system. But then, if you think about it on a national level in Sweden, there are several investigations underway that's examining the legislation and the possibility on imposing requirements through existing legislation. But as it looks today, I wish we could do more.
It's a slow process that requires much more willingness from different, as you say, many different parts, politicians, etc. So I guess, it's a more complicated topic.
Yeah, if we want to reduce the stormwater pollutants, one part is legislation, and another part is that everyone takes their own responsibility. Like you don't wash your car out in the street, so it goes out to the stormwater. That's one, and you don't throw garbage into our pipe system, like into the water. So.
Yeah, that's an important component. We all citizens. This is not just exclusive to Malmö or to Sweden. Of course, we all people who live in an urban area. So I guess we are responsible for that to keep our children educated also on not doing those things. And if everybody would do that, okay, that would be an ideal world. But again, it's the awareness of don't wash your car outside. That little bottle of oil, that whatever or chemical that you have in your cupboard, so don't just dump it like that. You have to properly dispose it, or if there's any recycling facility, of course, that needs to be taken there.
Because if you throw it into the stormwater and it goes out to our pipe system, eventually it goes out to the ocean where you want to go and take a swim in the summer. So, this European Water Directive, its whole purpose is to protect the water, so we have a sufficient amount of water with sufficient quality for future generations. But it's also our generation.
All those places that we love, the beaches, the lakes. We need to protect what we love. If we can put it in one word. So that is the thing. One thing that you are mentioning specifically is, what if we wouldn't, or we will prefer not to take the water into the existing network. So if we can treat the water on site wherever is possible. So do you see more future on that side, on that type of infiltration systems that are already covering certain area, and they are independent, they are self-sufficient, so we call it, processing all the pollutants and infiltrating the water in a more natural way? Is that, should we push more towards that side?
So to answer that question, I'll go back to what I was talking about. We need to think about which problem do we have on the specific location. Is it both the risk of flooding and stormwater pollutants? Because we need to figure, okay, is this a place where we have to detain the water, or do we also need to treat it in this specific place? And if we look at like a city in general, you say that 70% of the city, the areas in the city, is privately owned, and 30% is like publicly owned land. Yeah, exactly. And we at VA SYD, we can have our solutions on like the public land. We can't have it on the privately owned land. So under 30%, yeah, yeah. So of course, I think it's great with local treatment and detaining water locally, because something has to happen on those 70%. But when it comes to our system, we have those 30%. And I was talking about like the leaves, like the private property, it was like the leaves, and then it comes to smaller branches and then larger branches. So when it comes to our system, we can choose to have a solution for each branch, like a smaller solution, or we can choose to have a solution for larger branches or the entire trunk. So in our action plan, we compared these two types of solutions, like the smaller solutions and the larger solutions. And it was really hard, like in the existing city, it was really hard to find enough surface for the large solution, but it was even harder to find enough available surfaces for the smaller solution to cover up the same area as a larger solution. And then we saw that these larger solutions, they treat more stormwater per facility, and therefore we get more value for the money in those solutions. And as I said, if we have larger solutions, we can have fewer solutions, which make them easier and cheaper to maintain. And of course, the best would be if we could have all the small solutions we found and all the larger solutions we found. But as I said, the investments need that we have ahead of us is 50 to 60 billion. So we need to prioritize, and we need to start with the solutions when it comes to stormwater treatment, especially. We need to think about, okay, where do we get the most bang for the buck? Where do we get the most value for the money? What's the most cost effective? And of course, the best would be if we didn't need to treat any water at all. But as I said, that's not, unfortunately, not the case today. So yeah.
Just to put a bit of context on what you mean by a large stormwater treatment facility or solution. If we think of large in terms of capacity, would be something that has a capacity of 1,000 liters per second filtering, 2,000. What is, just to put a number, how large is large?
Yeah, I can give you an example. Like one solution that we're planning for now, the catchment area is 270 hectares. So it's large. Yeah. So the flows are big. Like if you look at a 10-year event rain to that solution, you will have 15 cubic meters per second. And of course, that's like in a 10-year event. So we don't have it all the times, but yeah, the flows are large.
Yeah, quite considerable, because and this is based on your as you said, the 10-year scope, or the 10-year how to say it, horizon.
Yeah, so yeah, I forgot to say that in those 15 cubic meters per second, we have taken into consideration like this climate factor, because we know since we have the climate changes, and we know that they will give us more rain. We address that when we're planning for our facilities. So yeah. But we did a study also in a village called Weberad, where we looked at smaller solutions and larger solutions. And when we compared the costs, the smaller and the larger, we saw that the smaller ones were 6 times more expensive, both when it came to investment and maintenance. And also the amount of pollutions that they were treated, like they were reducing, it was just half of what we reduced in the larger solution. Yeah, and for us, as I said, we've been on this journey where we, from the beginning, were only thinking about stormwater treatment when it came to new urban areas, and then we realized, okay, we need to think about stormwater treatment in existing areas, and then we did this action plan. In this action plan, we compared like smaller solutions with larger solutions, and in the beginning, we had an idea, but we were kind of surprised that. The difference in investments, like the cost for investment. But with that said, I mean, this is depending on the place and where you can find smaller solutions and where you can find larger solutions. But we did this in Weberad, and we done it in Lund, and we done it in Eslöv. And all of these studies shows the same, that the larger solutions further down in our systems are more cost effective than the smaller ones.
Right. You were already mentioning a few things about the future, about the legal framework, and also these 2027 water directive goals. How are we doing to meet those goals? How do you think you are ready? Or how is it going?
Yeah. So today, none of our recipients achieve those environmental quality standards, and none of them will be able to reach the standard in time. Yeah, unfortunately. But we're working on it. So we're doing our best to take like our part of the responsibility in these action plans that we've been working on. That's that's one of the ways to take our responsibility. But right now they don't have a good status, and they won't be able to reach it until 2027.
Well, then, but as you said, you continue working, and you already have a very clear vision for the future. And hopefully we can continue this conversation down, I don't know, 1 year, a couple of years, like, hey, which have been the achievements, or which things have been done well, which things we have maybe need to rethink. So this has been really insightful conversation. Thank you so much, Ebba, for sharing your wisdom. Is there anything else that you would like to add in all this context of how are you planning to tackle the future of stormwater treatment?
Yeah. One thing actually, because now when we talk about stormwater, we mostly talk about it as a problem. And I hope that in the future we will see the stormwater more as a resource. So it will have a different value than it has today. And I think we're heading in that direction. And actually VA SYD is involved in a project called Rewise, where they use stormwater instead of drinking water for flushing toilets, doing laundry, irrigation. And you can read more about that on our website. But I hope we will, I hope the stormwater will get another type of value in the future. Yeah.
Right. That would be, of course, we will get that link to include it in the show notes or in the accompanying blog post of this recording. Yeah, that would be fantastic to get a concrete example of, we call it harvesting the water, the stormwater, and to give a secondary use. Not exactly for drinking, of course, but that would be really nice. So, Ebba, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with the Urbanista audience. And for all of you, we will continue with more topics like this in the next episode. We are getting close to the summer in Europe, but we may have a summer break, but we still come back with at least a couple of more episodes. Thank you so much, Urbanistas, and see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Urbanista podcast, a production of Uponor Infra the leader in sustainable infrastructure solutions. If you found it interesting, why don't you share it with your colleagues? We all together can move our industry forward.